Greetings, everybody. Welcome back to another installment of Spirit Monday. Today, we're not going into any rituals. Today, we are not really looking at dreams, even though these things will always be a part of Spirit Monday. And if you have questions, these are the best time to ask your questions. Now, today, I want to reason with you. And I want you to understand something. It doesn't matter how well you're able to set up your altar. It doesn't matter how well you understand the stars and how they align. It doesn't matter how much you're able to do this incantation unless you are connected to the practice. Nothing you do will make any sense and you will never see any results from what you're doing because you're not having a true connection. You're doing practice. That's why you see people who are in the church for 20, 30 years, they cannot produce anything that is so significant that they can say, you know what? Look at my spiritual walk. I can teach somebody, not just something that they regurgitate from someone else, but something that they experience. Through their experience, they can say, I know this for a fact. How many people can say, I am truly connected with my God? Because they are always relying on someone else to tell them who God is. And you have to understand that that is within you. Only you alone can determine that personal walk. So someone can share their experiences with you, as I often do, but you're going to have to find your own way through prayer and meditation and fast and practice and your own connection to nature. In the past 2 years, doing what I refer to as the condemn gibbery or condemn jukery, so many people found out they have no real connection to spirit. And it was a very difficult time for them when they were forced to stay home and to have this one on one relationship with spirit. They suffered and they struggled. And so the point of these is not to get you to follow me blindly, but for you to figure out, determine what works for you and where you're seeing the results. You have to know yourself. Otherwise, you're going to be misled. That true connection requires you to understand your roots. And a lot of us, we don't know ourselves and we're not trying to find out who we are. And so we're always waiting for someone to tell you who God is to help you understand your purpose when these are your specific duty to find out for yourself. Now, last night I went to see a movie. Everywhere, I don't even want to say the name of that movie. I don't want to encourage anybody to go watch that movie. And when I sat in the movie theater last night, I was saying to myself, these are the kind of things that we have to guard ourselves against. Be careful about what we're watching. Even sometimes when we're watching something for the purpose of teaching, we still have to be careful what we enter into our spirit. Even though we are going to teach, it's not everything that you should sit and watch and even try to figure out or decode. That movie was so devilish and so demonic, and yet it is being presented as this deeply spiritual thing, and it's not. What it was, undercover battery recruitment video. In the video, you see episodes where, not episode, but a scene where people are fighting and martial arts is being employed and you got things coming out of their accoutrements, someone landing on an instrument and it goes up into the dairy air, and then you see someone, oh my goodness, I will not be able to get back that time. And I'm going to have a difficult time to erase those scenes out of my mind. And it just brings me to the question of how invested are you in finding your way to deeper truth? Because most of what we see presented to us these days as truth is just pure lies. And the main intention is to move us away from divine energy and take us to this place where people are relying on just unnatural things to bring about truth, or unnatural methods to try to indoctrinate us. So you have to ward against indoctrination. When you get the information, if you connect to it, that's great. You use it. But even when you're making that connection, you are going to have to spend time to figure out some things on your own. I can help you interpret your dreams, but you're going to ultimately find out, why am I getting these dreams? What is the message for me? Because there's always a message in everything that we do, everything that is given to us in nature. There's always a deeper message. And until we understand ourselves in relationship to these methods and these, messages, we can't find that true connection. The universe. We have a real enemy. And though sometimes I say our the real enemy is ourself, and the real energy or enemy, sorry, to us is our own. Technically, that is true. But there's something about our people that individuals will go above and beyond, not just to silence, to eliminate. Most of the things that are happening from our great grandparents' day, our great people, ancestors, that is the same. That spirit, that energy comes back from generation to generation with the same intention, and it is to destroy. And so while we're focusing on these supernatural beings that we cannot see, we lose focus of the ones that we can see, who have made it very clear that they want our souls. They want our body, they want our mind, they want our spirit. And it's up to you to say, I will not allow you to control me as a human being and to take me off my path. So the lies that are told, sometimes they look like the truth. There are people who can deceive you in such a way that there's no way you'd see that they are deceiving you if you're not spending time to elevate your mind, to tap into your consciousness. And the lies are getting to look more and more like the truth. If people can sit in a room and conceive the idea that they will get you to do things to your own self, deceive you in such a way that you voluntarily gave away your power, Can you imagine how deep that is? Hmm? To convince you that the way you are made is not right, that we need thicker lips, we need bigger boobs. We are not in the right body. That stuff is powerful. That the food that grows out of the earth is not good enough. Someone wants to make it in a lab. That one is better. Stuff is deep. And so the things you're worrying about are the least of your problems. When you don't have the spirit of discernment, because nothing is as it seems. And the lies that are told, they look like the truth. Someone sent me a video showing how there was a big boss in some Spanish place, and the people who discovered these things are seen as the heroes when they are so devilish. They always try to take the attention away from themselves and put it on someone else and say, look, we are the savior. Look to us. We are going to free you. And oftentimes, the only things these ones are freeing us from is our peace, is our joy, is our natural gifts, our wealth, our mind, replacing what is natural to what is unnatural. And the unfortunate thing is, even though you're seeing it in your very own eyes, something is off. You still fall for this. People who have never ever demonstrated any kind of love toward you will tell you something, and because you're so desperate for love, because you don't love yourself, you fall for it. And you condemn the things that are natural to you, and you gladly accept that which isn't. You see young people, for example, doing all these alterations to their body. And while I say whatever you do to your body is your own right, I'm just saying we no longer accept that which is natural. Anything that's artificial is what we want. And even though we know the risk, we gladly participate in these things. So, what kind of connection are you going to have? I mean, deep spiritual connection when you yourself do not accept that you're made beautifully and that you're perfect, perfect in the way you're made, and that when you worship according to the ways of your ancestors, it's okay, and that you no longer have to be ashamed of your curves, your natural curves, that is. You don't have to be ashamed of the size of your lip. Keep in mind, don't forget, there was a time when you were told that our lips were too thick and there was so much junk in the trunk and our hips were too wide. And then that's the very same thing they're using against us now, introducing you to things to put into your body, put things in your food to just affect you so you cannot activate your third eye. And of course, you can depend on pastors and, church leaders to continue to distract you. You got pastors who would put chloroform on their kerchief and put it on your forehead, and when you fall out, you say it's the Holy Spirit. And the Holy Spirit never visits you when you're by yourself, only when you're at church. Because the man of God is the only one who can bring the Spirit. If you cannot have these relationships with your spirit guide, with your creator, all by yourself, then something is wrong with that picture. So the ones who've always been an enemy to our soul will always think of ways. They will always conspire together to deceive you and to lead you astray if you don't spend time trying to find out who you are. And when you look and you see the things in your life repeating, there are things that always happen to you. Instead of you feeling sorry for yourself, try to find out what is the message. Why am I always finding myself in these situations? Because listen, nature constantly bring back the same thing based on the lessons that you ought to learn. It happens to the best of us. I have mine, and sometimes when I think, okay, I figured this out now, this is not going to happen again, it happens again. I have to go back to the drawing board because these things are not just natural, they're spiritual. This is why you got people, when you look back down your generation, you see a particular thing happening to everybody, and it's happening to you. And you can't just say, well, it happened to my mother and her mother and her mother. Why? And what can I do to get rid of this so that I don't pass this on to my children and their children? But the most important thing is you have to remember, when you see a particular thing happening, you have to remember, because it's through memory why we're able to access certain things that can elevate us. And it's through memory that we have to destroy certain patterns. So, one of the reasons why our people are not doing very well in certain areas of life is because we do not remember our past. And sometimes when you have bad experiences, you're thinking, I don't want to remember it, forget it. No, you have to think about it and process it and eliminate it. But if you don't have memory, if you don't remember it, you're going to constantly find yourself going back in that situation. And yes, it's painful. Sometimes you'd rather forget, but until you deal with it head on, some people need to go to counseling. Some people need some divine intervention, trust and believe, for these things to come out of your life. But you have to remember it and process it in order to eliminate it, because there is an agenda set out to destroy us and our offsprings. And the only thing that can thwart those plans is spirit. The only thing that can break the bond is spirit, your connection to spirit. Know yourself. I mean, there's so many things, scriptures in the Bible that will confirm this. So again, the Bible is not the only source of knowledge. It's one of many, all different spiritual practice that holds truth. And in the Western world, those who are Christians borrow from these other faiths or these other spiritual practice. And I think all of us have a different spirit guide that teaches us, that will turn up to guide and to protect us. But if we're relying on someone else to find out who these spirit beings are and to tell you which one is guiding you and keeping you, I don't know, you're going to wait for a long time and you're going to be very disappointed. So I can recognize certain patterns because they were similar in my life. I can recognize certain symbols because I've had some of those symbols in a dream, and over time, I know what it is. But you're gonna have to learn. You're gonna have to spend time figuring it out for yourself, because these guys are getting more and more fierce, and more they want to take the power that is held by divine nature, and they want to become God. You know, they see themselves as God. But there's nothing wrong with you seeing yourself as a God because you're so deeply connected to the things of the Spirit. But when someone says, I am taking the place of the Creator and I want to become that God in your life, and you give them permission to do that, then they cannot be blamed for your destruction. It's up to you to go in search. And once you start to go in search of truth, I guarantee you the Spirit will come to assist you. Once you are in search of truth, once you want to know, they will show up. So, you light your candles, you set up your altar, and you sit there and you just wait for some, you know, great noise to come out of the heavens to teach you. It doesn't work that way. It takes time and that true desire to find out truth. So recently I saw a young lady getting married in the church, and she was wearing makeup, and the pastor took cloth and was wiping off her makeup and taking off her nails. And, I think that was one of the most disrespectful things I ever saw. And I'm thinking to myself, that young lady is going to continue going there and see that person as God when she does not need to be around those kind of persons. She will never understand her power. She will never have any true connection to anything outside of that abusive situation, that exploitative situation. We have to find our way. And until we do, the same people who condemned our people over hundreds of years will continue to have that power and control. So many people fell for the condemned gibbery, and they felt they had no choice. And then there are other folks who were in the same situation who said no. Because guess what? Your faith was very weak. Many of you said that I am, you know, I believe in whatever. And when the test came, you failed. You said, I believe in a powerful source. I'm connected to that source. And it was very easy for men who participate in some devious things, some people who are only interested in the physical desires, who are very interested to going around the world and introducing some very sick things to other people. And you see, we just say, okay, it's all right. And yet we say, we trust in the Most High. Yet we say, we preach to people, you know, and say, this is how you're supposed to worship. This is how you're supposed to see, or who you're supposed to see as God. And there's such little faith. They trust in man and they disregard all that is natural and pure. We all have a moment when we're weak. We all have our moment when we get scared. But you have to understand that when your faith is grounded, when you trust the true and living creature and creation story, not one built on some fantasy or some allegory, one based on experience. The same people who were enemy of your forebears are enemies to you today. The method may be a bit different, but the story remains the same. And the only divine protection you will ever have or get is from that which your spirit identify with. So anything that is related to the motherland, when I experience that, it feels like home. I don't allow anyone to demonize my past, my roots. Though I was born in Jamaica, I know how my people were brought there and how, as African people, we were first people all around the earth. And as it was then, so is it today. We travel all around the world. But until we go back to our roots, we will never be great. And people will always come to condemn us, even when they claim they're accepting us. Because guess what? By rejecting our roots, rejecting the things of our ancestors, we essentially are telling these ones that we're ashamed. And the more they can convince you that that experience and that life was wrong, as long as they can convince you of that, you will never be powerful. You'll never be great. Listen, the battery recruitment video that I saw last night just shows me how desperate these ones are getting to recruit us. to lead us down a road where we have no truth, where we lose our power. And once they can weaken you this way, they win. So, as you grow spiritually and financially, it is up to you to teach your children, your offspring, to do work in your community, to not just enlighten them spiritually, but to elevate yourself and them physically and spiritually as well. These are not ordinary days. Some serious time is ahead, and it's not for the weak or the faint of heart, or one who's easily misled. You have to know yourself. And we all have our moments when we're weak, but we have to try to align ourselves with people that when we're weak, they can help keep us strong. During the condemned gibbery, there was one woman who would always say, hold the faith, stand firm in your convictions, stand firm. And whenever I felt weak, not that I was going to give in, but there are times when I was thinking, when I saw people and heard them talking a particular way, I'm like, oh my goodness, it was that easy. I was feeling so overwhelmed and so disappointed. And oftentimes I would turn to the sister and say, thank you so much for letting me know that I'm not the only one who's holding the firm. I'm not the only one who's saying it's very clear that all these things are lies. There are few of us who were able to see through the lies, and few of us who were saying, well, I'm choosing the Most High, and had to get to the point where you were ready to surrender it all. Until you're ready to surrender it all, until you're ready to give up your spirit, um, and come out of this physical body. You have to get to that point. And so we see a lot of persons who said they're people of faith, they were so weak. But I'm going to encourage you. I'm not saying it is easy, but I'm saying to you that until you can get to the point where you say, I'm surrendering it all to the Most High, and unless my life is grounded in that spiritual consciousness, then this world and this life is not worth it. How many of you are able to do that? To say, I'm going to give up the material possession, I'm going to give up all of this thing, I'm going to, I'm prepared to surrender it all. So many people of faith give in to demons. So we don't want to just meet week after week and just, say, okay, how do you do this? What can I do to, you know, get more money in my life? What can I do to, eliminate these dark forces around me? What can I do to get rid of my enemies? These are all important things to know and learn over time. But if you say, I want a closer connection with spirit beings, my spirit guides, with the universe, with the creator, whatever word you use, where you're truly doing all you can to get close with divine truth. Because there's so much. We're just touching the surface, people. Our mind can't comprehend how deep this can go. And that many of the ones who are out here, influencing you and misleading you, they have true connection, but to demons. And they're faithful to them. They're working for them every day. And the only way for you to survive and overcome that is for you to be grounded in your truth that leads you to a creator that is responsible for your growth, that blesses you and keep you and teach you and send people in your life to, you know, not just influence you, but to comfort you in the days when the trials are so much, the burden is so heavy. We need that. Real sisters and brothers that understand more than just what the physical eyes can see. And having that true connection with divine spirit that is here to teach us and to raise us to higher heights, greater dimensions. If you're not seeking that in this time, I feel bad for you. The battery recruitment will continue, and people will be more disturbed and more confused, and they will not be able to tell the truth from a lie. And the condemned gibbery will continue, and you will lose your way. And the lie will become a truthful thing to you. You will no longer know what is right from wrong until you surrender it all. Surrender everything and ask for truth, for guidance as you humble yourself before the Most High. Just want to encourage somebody to say, you know what? Whatever it is that you're going through, you know what? Surrender it all. Do not fear man and what man can do to you. Just trust and believe that all good things come from not man, but from the universe, from the creator who made man. Stop fearing people. Stop looking to people for the answers and look to nature. Look to the universe and use as much time as is possible to make that connection where you get to grow not just spiritually, but physically, and you're going to be growing financially. All blessings will be added to you once you're committed to knowing your creator. Stay blessed, everyone.